If you've been to league candidate forums before, you know that we have rules. The candidates have agreed to the rules in advance, and I will tell you what these rules are. First off, each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement. Then we will have questions from the audience, and we've taken your questions. We have them up here. We're taking them on cards. Cards are available out at the front if you want to go get one, or there may be cards floating around, but we have quite a few questions already. And then at the end, each candidate will have a closing statement. We had the candidates draw numbers, so they will be speaking in this order. At the beginning, Robert Humphrey will make his 2-minute statement, then Tom Dimond, and third will be Foung Hawj, and it will be in the reverse order to close. We have a timekeeper. The timekeeper is Roger Anderson, who is here wearing a blue t-shirt. He will let the candidate know when they have 30 seconds left, and then the time. And if they don't stop talking, I'll tell them.
You're very good.
Right. You are warned. Okay. The candidates brought literature with them, but it's not in here. That's against the rules. It's out front. You can pick it up when you leave tonight. We reserve the right to ask anybody who is disruptive to leave. I mean, the purpose of this is not to have a row. The purpose of this is to share information with you. The questions become the property of the league. Do you have any questions about anything else? Foung, yeah.
I propose one thing. I'd like to encourage members of the Somali community and members of the Hmong community that they can write their question in their own language. And
Oh,
be
okay.
translated.
All right, great. Did you hear that? Members of the Somali or Hmong community, if you have questions you want to write in your own language, do that and we will translate it for you. Yes?
I suggest you say that. Right,
Okay.
that's what I was going to say.
And if my peers back there, if you can say to some Somali member that they can write in Somali and
Do you want to come up and say it?
Oh,
Thank you.
I didn't give it to him. But when I get a chance. Does that make sense?
oh yeah, you just turn around and say loudly to them.
Constitution, etc.
So I need to translate
Yeah,
this
just,
question?
just say it. Say it.
This question was, he wants to know how the...
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Can you write it down in English and give it to me?
Oh,
No,
I have no...
Tell your group to write in English or write in Somali,
And then translate.
and then you can help us translate the
Okay.
question.
Right.
Yep.
And Sig Johnson, who's here in the white coat, can help you. She has, do you have cards for me?
Yep.
Well, nobody has written questions. These are good. These are good ones. Okay, do we have more people who want cards? Okay.
Is that one with the...
When they go in, please. Thank you.
And any more? More cards? Do we have any more cards? Okay. Do we have more blanks? Oh, you do?
John.
Somebody else who wanted. Anybody else? Okay. One last call for lemonade. It's here. Once we're started, I think you probably don't want to walk in front of the candidates. So give you a moment if you want to come up and get lemonade.
York.
I won't go that milk.
Yes. You want to answer that? No?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. In that case, well, yes. Oh, yeah. Ed Davis is here from edemocracy.org. He will be videoing the entire program after tonight.
I'll get it up by tonight. I'll get
Okay,
it
it'll
tomorrow
be on
morning.
YouTube by tonight. And we don't know the address, but go to e-democracy.org for East Side Forum, and it will give you a link to watch this. It will be available to you or anybody else to watch up until the primary, which is
Forever,
August
actually.
14th.
Forever. It'll always be there.
Oh,
It's
it'll
forever.
always be there. You can go there next year and see these candidates.
So the candidates know. It's up there forever.
Yeah. So are there any more questions about the process tonight before we start with the candidate statements? Good. In that case, Robert, you have 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, neighborhood livability is a top issue facing the East Side families. I want to get in here and fight for better schools, safer neighborhoods, quality housing as jobs. As your senator, I'm going to work to make the East Side, make the state of Minnesota the East Side's partner and make the East Side better and safer. Now, 2 things I'm running on. One is jobs. We don't have enough of them on the East Side. I talked to the working people of Minnesota. They've answered. That's why I've been endorsed. Oh, sure. I didn't know that was the rule, so now I do. I've been endorsed by the Minnesota AFL-CIO, AFSCME Council 5, MAPE, St. Paul Building Trades, IBW, the Carpenters, steel workers. I'm proud of that one. My dad's a union steel worker. And regarding neighborhood livability, I've been endorsed by the St. Paul Police Federation last night, and I have also been endorsed by the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association. I want to stand up for us, create more jobs over here on the East Side. I'm in it for my children. I care deeply about Ada and Odin's future. I see, when I screened one time for the Minnesota Building Trades, one of the machinists said, we used to have 3,000 machinists working down at the 3M site. Now I drive by there every day. I see a dozen 49ers knocking it down. Let's get some more jobs in there, good union jobs. Let's get some good union jobs. Building a plant there that makes things in Minnesota again. And let's get some union jobs in there building those things in Minnesota. Thank you. And one more thing before I go out of here. And I'll stand back up. That's good. That's a good rule. I want to just, I almost forgot. I want to thank these 2 guys for all their hard work in running for office. Mr. Dimond, I've seen you out there on 95-degree days. I know it's hard work. Mr. Hawj, same thing. It's hard. This is for democracy. We're all good Democrats. And I just want to thank you, too, for running a clean, issues-oriented campaign that we have. So thank you.
Thank you. Tom Dimond. Very nice of all of you to come up. Really touched you. I think the best way for me to introduce myself is to talk about some of where I come from, my background. I've always been interested in issues in our community and been involved with them, and that's what has gotten me into politics, because it is a vehicle for us to be able to empower our community, help our neighbors and our friends and family out to get the things done that we want as a community. And so that's what's driven me in politics. I've been involved with the district councils. I've served on nonprofits, working on getting housing, rehabilitating housing, creating jobs, redeveloping buildings and sites. And it's very rewarding because as you work with the community and you literally, some of these projects, we do them hands-on and working on them. I've invested my own money into property. I'm a carpenter for a living. And it really makes a difference. Yeah, sometimes when you take a look at the overall issue, it sometimes seems overwhelming as to the issues that we face. But if we work together, individually and as a group, we really can make a difference. And you see the areas where this has happened. I've also served on the city council, served as the chair of the HRA, been in groups like advisory group for the college, Century College, worked for the Minnesota Senate Energy and Housing Committee and Joint Legislative Commission on Energy. And what we're trying to do is find ways to create jobs in a way that provides for the future. One of the things that we looked at is alternative energy, transit, how to improve these systems which benefit us, not just today, but for future generations. And that's really where I come from, is trying to work with friends and neighbors to make that difference. And that's what, if I have your support, when I'm at the legislature, as you'll see on my leg shirt, my home phone number is on there, my home address is on there.
Hello, everyone. I'm very honored and very pleased to be in front of the face of diversity. I'm in front of the very wise and the very young, and the new immigrant, and those who have lived here for a very long time. And I'm also honored that Senator John Harrington is here with us tonight. And again, my name is Foung Hawj. I lived in St. Paul for 21 years. I bought my first home here in the East Side and never late on my mortgage payment. And I'm a small business owner, producing video to promote quality living, and producing video to educate people about the environment. I volunteer a lot. I have a long-term record of community volunteerism and participation. I serve in District 2 Council. I serve in the Watershed Advisory Committee. I serve currently as a steering member for the Gateway Food Initiative. And I also serve on the Minneapolis Foundation Digital Divide Committee, among others. And I'm also was appointed by the mayor to sit on the St. Paul Neighborhood Network as a board member. For 15 years, I have been active in the DFL party, and I'm currently serving as a second term as a precinct chair of my precinct. And I have fundraised for many elected officials, including Mayor Chris Coleman, County Commissioner Rafael Ortega, Sheriff Matt Bostrom, and the late Senator Paul Wellstone. Okay, I have to speak louder because Loretta is waving her hand back there. And I'm married to my college sweetheart for 25 years. We have no children, but we understand about parenthood because I raised 4 of my youngest siblings, and also helped raise my 11 niece and nephew. And so I'm honored to be here among all of you, and so hopefully, you guys can throw us some tough questions. Thank you.
Thank you all for your statements. Actually, can I pick up your questions now? Are there other questions? Other questions? Any other questions for me? Thank you. Great. Thank you all. Now, what we will do with the questions is we have questions we've collected for you. Yeah.
That's the phone somebody wants to get in. So,
okay.
Tell me, you're being in, do dial 6. It rings.
Just ring?
Yeah.
On 6?
Yes.
Oh, it sounds like you're just...
Everybody turn your cell phones on.
That's right. Cell phones on too, yes.
Do you mind being or just...
That's what that call's about, it's to remind us to turn on our cell phone.
Okay. The reason that we ask you to submit questions to us is there's a couple reasons, actually. I'm sure you have all been to things like this where people kind of make a career out of asking a question. They ask and they ask and they go on and they go on, and they're really much more interested in making a statement than asking a question. If the questions are filtered through us, that doesn't happen. And also it means that we can really balance your interests. Several of you are asking similar questions. We can combine them all into one and see that the questions are kind of across the board. Whoever is elected for this district is going to face all kinds of issues, and we want to make sure that questions get asked of them that cover as much of that spectrum as we can. So that's why we're asking you to do it this way. So each time I ask a question, I will tell them the order in which they'll answer me. Once again, each candidate has 2 minutes to answer, and our timekeeper will be telling them what their boundaries are. So our first question. And I would ask that you answer this in the order of Ha, Dimond, and Humphrey. Mr. Ha first. Would you author and vote for legislation that returns private property at the airport to the property tax rolls?
I have to admit, I realized there was an issue with the city airport down there, and that I will look into that. I'm not an expert on airport, so I don't.
Better stand up.
I said I have to pass on that question because I'm not an expert on airport, and I have to look at that issue and make my judgment to that. So I will pass on that question to Tom, on that. And if it makes sense for the east side, I'm for it.
I believe the question is dealing with the property taxes at the St. Paul Airport. There's not the airport itself, not the public property, but there's private property down there. Multi-million-dollar buildings that house multi-million-dollar jets. You and I, your bride, you pay property taxes on it. They don't pay any property taxes to the city, to the school district, fiscal disparities, or to the state pool. It's those kind of inequities, not just there, but the other tax inequities in our system that really are putting the burden on the middle class in the state, and are the reasons why we end up having the situation with not being able to fund the programs that need to be funded in the state, whether it be education, housing, whatever. And I not only would author and support that legislation, but I worked with the city council. They've got a resolution that they passed. We've taken it through the legislature twice, gotten it through. Unfortunately, we had a Republican governor, and now who blocked it. And now we've got a Democratic governor, but the legislature supported it. So yes, I would very much support that. I think that we need to close those loopholes in the system.
What Tom said about the tax inequities in our society, you see this at the airport, you see it what we pay in property taxes, homestead versus non-homesteaded, etc. I'm in favor of more equality in our tax system. I support Governor Dayton's plan to make the wealthy pay. Specifically on this airport issue, I hadn't looked at the public-private buildings there in detail. I do know one thing, though. I think that this airport, a lot of people, I think the airport is important to the economic vitality of the east side and of the region. And one of the reasons we have so many Fortune 500 companies is easy access to this airport. I am in favor, though, of this airport not expanding. I support where it's at right now, which they have offered. They would not be lengthening the runways. They would not be increasing capacity. And thank you.
Our next question will be answered in order of Dimond, Humphrey, and Huff. And the question is, do you support or oppose the constitutional amendments, and what have you personally done to work for or against these issues?
I hope everybody in this room votes no on those amendments. I have been outspoken about these amendments. They are not the direction that I believe that Minnesota should go, and certainly is not what I believe that we as Minnesotans have stood for. One of the things that we should be proud of is the turnout rate that we have at our elections. We should be doing everything possible to make it easier for people to vote, that they get the right to vote. What is in these proposals is, one, would embed in our Constitution discrimination. That should be contrary to all of our belief systems. We should also, and I also support marriage equality beyond that. I think it's important that all of our citizens have the same rights across the board and are able to enjoy those benefits in this state. Susan and I have been married for 42 years, and I don't see in any way that other people being able to enjoy that sort of relationship is any threat to our marriage, or quite the contrary. Trying to divide people up and restrict their rights is threatening to us as a society and as a people. And hopefully we'll all speak up against it. As far as the voters, I talk to people a lot at the door, and a lot of people say, well, geez, an ID, that seems reasonable. It does seem reasonable at the face, but not when you look into it. And we don't have the time to get into details, but the reality of it is that we will limit people being able to vote. And it will disproportionately impact groups that should not be impacted. Nobody should be impacted, but you start looking at it, elderly, disabilities, the youth. We should not ever allow this to pass, and hopefully we can stand up and be the ones in this country who stand up and vote these down up front and start a trend across the country. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was writing it down here even now. No, I'm sorry. It's been a long season of campaigning here. I agree with what Tom said. He actually put that very well. I carry the endorsement I found out just today, and I'm very proud to have received the Stonewall DFL endorsement. I can't thank those folks enough for taking the time out of their busy schedules and talk to me about the issues and the other candidates. I oppose these two amendments. I think they're a miscalculated attempt by the Republicans to divide us as a society when what we need to do is come together as a people. So, thank you.
And I have to commend Tom for this because he presented it very well. My answer is no and no. And I also agree with Bob that it's a Republican attempt to confuse us. I have a LGBT member, several of them that work on my campaign, and at the same time, I have to vote no on the voter ID because it blocks all of us. I think in our democratic society, voting should be dictated by the people and not the establishment. And again, I will vote no. And for me, I will push even further because I have to explain to members of my community what this no is about. I have to talk to my Somali peers, my Hispanic peers, that what this is about, so they can understand it. They're not being dragged in by the right to confuse all of us and use our culture to as a cushion for them to engage on other issues. So that's why my stand is. Thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, can you answer it in the order of Humphrey, Hawj, and Dimond? And that question is, what do you think your most important accomplishment to date has been for the East Side? Mr. Humphrey?
Oh, sure. The most important accomplishment to date for the East Side, I think, has been working to elect strong DFLers to the legislature. I worked in support of Senator John Harrington's campaign. I supported Representative Tim Mahoney's campaign. I supported Representative Dan Bostrom's campaign, and I worked to keep him in office. And those people have worked hard and tirelessly to help us out. I'd also like to say, I've worked hard on volunteering on the East Side. I am a soccer coach. I've helped the kids out. I've invested in our future. Got both my kids in the public school systems. My little one isn't yet, but she will be. And I've worked hard on soccer, hockey, whatever I can with our children to make the East Side a better place. So, thank you.
Mr. Mr. Hawj.
I have three, but I will narrow down to one later if I choose to. The number one thing is the Hmong Village complex. When they were starting up, I talked to them and I brought the county, negotiate with them so they can start recycling. That's important. And I brought the county recycling program to the Hmong Village. Second thing is I serve in District 2 Council, and that the District 2 Council is the committee that helps get the cup route to the corner of Clarence and Maryland. That's two things that I feel proud of. Number three thing is my campaign office is on 7th Street, along with all the Hispanic, restaurants and storefront. And that's the third thing I'm proud of. If I did have to choose one, I choose the Hmong Village because it's in the heart of the East Side and it's bring recycling to the community. So thank you very much.
It's a question. I guess what I would say if I had to pick one is that involvement with Dayton's Bluff community in particular is the impacts that we have been able to make in Dayton's Bluff neighborhood on housing and jobs and education have been incredible. We have gotten millions of dollars invested into fixing up houses and increasing home ownership in the neighborhood. We got a historic district designated as the first and only historic district at the time on the east side. When we tried to get that, the neighborhood was rallying to get that, we were told by the city and the state historical side, you can't have one on the east side. There is that kind of bias in the system against the east side, which is really unfortunate, and we have to constantly work to address. We made our case. We built the record, and they all came along in time as we explained why the importance of our history is just important as the history of any other part of this city. And we built that through strength. And now they tout it as what a wonderful example it is. But that's what we need to do. We need to tell our own story and advocate for our own community. That's what we need to do. We need to be a strong voice. Also with that, I got jobs on 7th Street. We rehabilitated commercial buildings, got them jobs in there, and got businesses like the Sweet Hollow Cafe, which many of you have had a chance to enjoy. If you haven't, please do. It's a wonderful place. But also Metro U. That was another one of the pieces of that puzzle working is. We need higher education on the east side. And I was fortunate to be the person who, working with the community, we spearheaded that effort, sat down with then head of Metro U and broached the idea when we were sitting there with this vacant hospital complex. And thanks up.
I was just going to say I graduated from there in '92.
Great.
Thank you. In this order for the next question, Mr. Dimond, Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Ha. What would you do at the state level to mitigate foreclosures and underwater mortgages?
One of the things that I'm talking to people on foreclosures is the process is really problematic. People talk about how they, for various different reasons, medical conditions, jobs, etc., they are not able to make the payments that they had in their mortgage. And so they get caught in this bind. But they still are willing to pay. They just need to adjust the terms that they get it. They approach the mortgage companies or the banks to which they get their mortgage, and they find out they don't have the mortgages. They've been bundled up into these financial instruments, which make it very difficult for them, first of all, to find out who it is they're to deal with. And then once they try and deal with them, they get get told that, yes, we're working on it, we'll work with you, we'll do this. And so they're banking on that, but at the same time, they don't realize that they're moving ahead with the foreclosure. And so then the foreclosure comes along, and they don't have time or the opportunity to reach out to other organizations to do it. So part of it is, I think we need to make sure that the rules of the game are such that people fairly know what it is that they're signing on in the first place. And then, when there are needs to be a renegotiation, that people fairly know what that process is and can get a fair rate on how that is done. So that's what I think is, and the foreclosures themselves is really key, is that we get the rules of the game right so the average person can deal with it.
I think Tom did a good job on that one. I agree with them. It's not going to happen all the time, but anyway, regarding foreclosures and underwater mortgages, I mean, when I'm out door knocking, it's sad to see these nice houses with the blue placard on the door, And one of the things I've done in my office is work on the vacant building crisis in St. Paul. And it was a crisis. And one of the things we're working on there is taking the houses that need to be rehabilitated. We're making sure they're rehabilitated right. And taking the ones that need to be torn down and getting rid of them so we can build quality housing there and not have more slumlord properties in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Well, I will make sure that the bank and mortgage company will do everything they can to help homeowners so they can keep their home. Okay, speak louder. I would legislate a grace period extension to allow homeowners some time to work it out. And I also want to make sure that I could legislate and that force bank to respond to homeowners much quicker, so they can get the issue resolved. And I'll find way to work with local banks so that we can sprout another Otto Bremer in this generation. During that time, there was another depression, and someone sparked the idea, came and invest in small towns, and I will work hard for that. And I will put my strength is to bring community together. This is a time where we suffer the most, and we have to come together. I have to bring the faith community together. I have to bring, along with Habitat Humanity, and work with NACA, so we can we can comfort each other and be a resource to each other, and that way we can prevent predatory loans. Let me be frank that those who have robbed us either left the country, commit suicide, or in jail. There's some lackey that's out in the woods waiting to see that opportunity come. And if we strengthen our community, we can defend ourselves from those lackeys that will jump on the opportunity to rip us off again. So this is where I stand. I extended the grace period and also make the bank respond much quicker. Thank you.
How are you folks back in there hearing? Seriously, can everybody, you folks in the back, can you hear us? Okay, everybody speak more loudly. Next question, next answer.
If they're standing, there's room to stand in here.
There is some room to stand in here if you want to come in and crowd in here.
And it's nice and cool.
It is cool. Yes, for those of you in that room, it is cooler in here. But on the other hand, you've got chairs. For the next question, please answer it in the order of Mr. Hoff, Mr. Dimond, Mr. Humphrey. Charter schools are private, corporate-owned businesses. How will you ensure that my tax monies go to public schools, not to profit-making organizations? Mr. Hoff, you want first.
At one time, at some point, I had to be liberal. I had to, stay with the Democrat platform. But at another point, I have to look at the effectiveness of charter school. Charter school create jobs for people, and I have visited a number of charter schools during my campaign, and they create jobs for people, and that's important. So I will stand with charter school when it comes to voting. I will make sure that they're diversified, their student body, and also the teacher. I think that's important. I was a strong proponent for that. Thank you.
Charter schools are actually public schools. They are chartered through the school district. But I think really the important issue is funding for education. We need adequate funding for education. And this where legislature is borrowing money from the schools is just ludicrous. Not only does it do great harm to the schools, it is financially foolish. They are paying darn near as much in interest as you gain from getting that. It is very costly and does not provide any educational benefit for doing it that way. So what we need is resources. And you say, well, so where are we going to get these resources? I think it's pretty clear where we need to get these resources from. You can't tax the poor. They don't have any money. You can't tax the middle class because they're already burdened. You've got to look at the well-to-do, the upper tier. You need that upper tier tax. And it's not a punishment. It's not an envy. It's nothing wrong. God bless them that they can make that kind of money. But if you can make that kind of money, you more than anybody are benefiting from our transportation systems, our transit systems, our airports for the private jets, you name it, they're benefiting from it. And so they should pay a little more to help provide for the system. And so that's what we need to do is we need that top tier that will help us. We also need to deal with these exemptions. Now, we talked about one of them, but there's many of those kinds of exemptions. For example, there are benefits for offshoring money these days. It's crazy that we should make it easier for people to offshore money. We need to bring common sense back to the tax system and get the revenue so we can provide for those basic programs, education, transportation, housing, jobs. That's what we need to do.
And on the question of charter schools, I think that they initially filled a niche that was necessary. I think they expanded and they tried to take over too much of the educational system. I'd like to see that retract. I support the public school systems. I chose to put both my kids in the public school systems. I'm against the gimmicks and the shifts that the legislature used to take the burden off of the wealthies and everything, and our tax system is a mess. I'm against those shifts in the system. And the gimmicks, we need to repay the school districts and fairly fund our public school systems. Basically they're placing all the burden on the property owners, and that's just not fair to us. So I'm actually would be in favor of shrinking charter schools and increasing their funding for public education. Thank you.
Thank you.
College education.
I'm sorry,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you've written your question. The next question, please answer it in this order. Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Ha, Mr. Dimond. How will you improve the funding of the 4 block nurse programs in this district?
I'm proud to have been to 2 of the block nurse summer picnics. Great people, great program. I think we need to do whatever we can to fund these programs. They're very modestly funded right now. These are the programs that keep our seniors in their homes. Whatever we can do to fund them more, whatever we can give to them. My good friend Marge Evansteiner works on the block nurse program. My good friend Joanne Ellis works in the block nurse program. I would listen to them and say, what can I do to help you guys out and help keep these seniors in your home?
I also have good friends in block nurse program too, Loretta Novak. So I will, get advice from her on that. And I know her for many years. For me, it's about restoring, funding for the seniors, and by restoring funding for the Minnesota Board of Aging, it would trickle down to the block nurse programs. And having that, we can have better visitation and visit our senior citizens and our elderly provide effective service for those senior in assisted living or those who choose to live independently. So I will fight for you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm married to a nurse, so I kind of support nurses. All kidding aside, really what we're looking at is the healthcare itself. We really need to make sense of this healthcare system. With the system now, we need to get the funds to care like the home health care part of the system. We need better preventative care. We need better access for all the people. We need universal health care. That's what we need. Health care for all, whatever you want to call it, expansion of Medicare. We need to get this system straightened out now and make sure that everybody has the opportunity to get health care, not just in emergencies, but from the prevention on up. And it not only is economic sense, but it provides better health care. It is not good health care waiting until somebody has to go to a hospital emergency room. And it does not make economic sense to do it that way. And we talk about, oftentimes there's a lot of issues about life and children and raising. We should make sure that there's prenatal care. We need to take care of the children from start to adulthood. And that's the kind of coverage that we need in our system, and we need to do it in our health care program. And with the work with the drafting of the legislation at the state will really, dealing with the Affordable Care Act, will really help us get in that, meet those needs. So that's, I think, where we really have to focus is on the drafting of the state legislation to deal with the Affordable Care Act and just provide health care for all. Also, John Marty has a very good bill that I would certainly join him on as far as health care for all.
Look, it's a hot night. Why don't we take a 2-minute break? If you want to stand and stretch, do that. If anybody has to leave now and maybe open up a seat. And we will reconvene in 2 minutes.
What would you consider doing at the state level to help disabled vets or regular vets? Their problems can be both their disabilities and the fact that veterans have an especially high unemployment rate among their questions. So, Mr. Dimond, Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Hawj.
Well, I'm a veteran myself, and I've get the good fortune of being endorsed by the DFL Veterans Caucus. And the issues that facing the veterans is quite significant. And we're not just dealing with the veterans who are coming home today, which is huge. The medical issues are particularly challenging with the current vets coming back because we have such a wonderful health system that we can evacuate troops from the field quickly and get them to medical care, that we can save a lot of lives. But many people are coming back very injured. With the brain injuries, the traumatic brain injuries unit, we are very fortunate here of having one of the finest facilities here, right here in the Twin Cities of Fort Snelling. And that facility is, that facility, if you go through there, it's pretty powerful what they do as far as good things, but the impacts on the human beings that are involved there. Also, our other facilities, whether it be for the older guys like myself, that have come back but have various issues, whether they just be medical issues that they're dealing with, or their substance abuse issues and stuff. Again, we, the state and the federal government, both provide services in these fields, and we need more facilities. Governor Dayton has been very good about providing additional funding for this, but we need more facilities because in many cases, while the care is excellent, vets can't get in when they need to get in, and particularly when we're talking about substance issues. They need to get into those facilities and need to be able to get the care. Otherwise, we see the tragic loss of lives of many of these people that served our country because they could not get the care that they should have at the time they should have done. So, anyways, that's it.
You know, I had a complaint at the break about the applause. I'm sorry to ask you this, but can you hold the applause until the very end? Because we all appreciate every answer we're getting tonight. And it just takes some time that we would rather spend on answers.
So, what would you do at the state level to help our veterans? Number one, get them a job. I working in the city of St. Paul, we have an absolute absolute rule where we have to interview all the veterans before you can interview anyone else. I think that's a great rule. I would work at expanding that rule in the state of Minnesota. I'd work at creating jobs in the East Side and in St. Paul in general. That's what people need, are a job. And our veterans, God bless them. My own campaign manager just got back from Afghanistan. I thank him for his service. He worked hard. And you know, it's tough out there. It's tough to get a job right now. What we need is more economic development on the East Side in St. Paul so we can get veterans jobs, get everyone a good job, so they can buy these houses, fix them up, raise a family, put their kids in the public schools, and you know, work at making the East Side the great place to live that it is, and make it better. That's what I'd like to see. So, thank you.
First of all, I'm very honored to sit next to someone who has sacrificed his life to serve this country. Louder? Okay. I'm very honored to share the same table with Mr. Tom Dimond, who's also a veteran and served this country well. And I'm also, you know, honored that Abe Rosenthal is also here, World War II veteran. And so, you know, I don't know, I haven't met many of you who are veteran. If you are, hey, Bob, you're also a veteran, Vietnam veteran. I'm also a family of veterans. My father is a major in the clandestine operation in Laos, and he has seen much. I have, alongside with him, seen much too. As in my younger days, I seen war fought in front of me, and my father later on became minister. You know, so for me at the current time, you know, as far as veterans serving overseas, we need to make them feel welcoming when they return home. We need to prepare a job for them and make sure that the job, their training is transferable to our, you know, civil servant in our country. So I will fight hard for them. I will fight hard for the veteran and health care for the veteran as well. And let me add that, you know, one thing deep in my heart is that I will make sure that Hmong veterans who served in Vietnam War get equal treatment, you know, as well as other veterans in America. Thank you.
The next question, please answer in this order. Mr. Hoff, Mr. Dimond, and Mr. Humphrey. What is your stand on a woman's right to make her own medical decisions, and if you support that right, how do you propose to protect it? Mr. Hoff?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Dimond and Mr. Humphrey, in that order.
You know, I think I support the right for women to choose, and that means, you know, better health care for them. You know, better health care for the, you know, if they do decide to go on, you know, and have children, you know, better health care for their children too. So yes, I'm a proponent for that as well. You know, women have the right to choose, and so we don't want to limit any right to anyone that live in this free world. Thank you.
I am also very fortunate to have the endorsement of NARAL. And I think it's, again, to talk about rights and to talk about humanity, it is certainly not the role of men to be telling women what their medical care should be. We should be making sure that, first of all, we provide comprehensive sexual education in our community, age appropriate, but comprehensive sexual education in our school systems and in our society as a whole. We need to make sure that we have the best of care for all of our citizens in health care. And women should not, it should not be just limited to certain issues. We should have, again, whether it be preventative care, we need to have a comprehensive health care program for men, women, and children in this country. It's just absolutely, it should be a right. I certainly believe it's a right for us as human beings in this society. And as one of the leading industrial countries in the world,
we have not risen up to take that responsibility. And it really is something that it's about time that we do. We provide some leadership in this area. So I very much support women and their rights, and I'm glad that I have Nero's endorsement.
I too support a woman's right to choose. I don't think that this is a decision that should be made by government. I think this is a decision a woman should make, her doctor, her faith, her family, whoever else she decides to talk to. But this is not a decision that the Minnesota State Senate or your elected state senator should make for a woman. I'm blessed with my own children. Love them a lot. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them get the health care that they need. And again, early childhood family education for our children. More, things along the lines of better health care in general in society. I mean, it's sort of a travesty the way we treat health care here. We're the only industrialized nation in the world that does not have a single-payer health care system. And that's something we need to pass in this country. So, thank you.
All right, will you answer the next question in this order? Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Ha, and Mr. Dimond. And please answer this with a concrete suggestion if you can. Currently, Minnesota sends $6 billion a year out of state to buy electricity generated by coal. What would you do to make renewable energy from Minnesota easier to build and obtain as quickly as possible? Okay, Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Ha, Mr. Dimond.
Yeah, I think we need to look at expanding wind, biomass, solar. I think we need to expand on the state's commitment towards renewable resources in Minnesota and elsewhere. I support that. These are things that are coming around. I think we're already up to nearly 20% from renewable energy in Minnesota, and the plan is to even increase that more. So, great programs, support them all the way. Whatever we can do to make us less reliant on foreign resources. So, thank you.
I support renewable energy. And I hope to expand on that, but I like to cut down the drilling. And the issue of renewable energy is very, very broad. Let me just cut to the chase that I would try to reduce the corporate tax loophole that are harvesting or sending resources overseas, because that's hurting our education. That's hurting our jobs. It should be moving back to this country and moving back to our state so we can have more jobs and promote our children for better education.
A comprehensive alternative energy program has to be just that, a comprehensive alternative energy program. You can't expect, and you will not have, alternative energy continue to grow and blossom as it can if you are undercutting it. One of the examples is we need to retain the nuclear moratorium. Not only is it bad for the environment, but economically it is disastrous. It is the most expensive electricity you can have. It not only is bad for the environment, but it's bad for jobs, because what it does is it makes jobs uncompetitive, businesses uncompetitive, because of high cost. And if you do the nuclear power plant, put it into discussion, then the investments in alternative energy will just wither on the vine, because they won't do it while that's sitting out there. There's also other proposals that have gone. For example, the proposal up in the range to build this clean coal technology. We all know it's nonsense. There's no truth to it. But $40 million of our public money has gone in to build nothing. Nothing. There's nothing there. It's producing no electricity, but $40 million. If we put that $40 million into alternative energy, helping people put energy panels on their house, helping them insulate and reduce the usage of energy, help put higher efficiency furnaces and boilers in their homes. We can make those differences, but we have to be serious about where we're investing that money. We can't keep sending the money to the, there's reasons why there are endorsements that happen and they get the payback. And we have got to stand up to these special interests who are diverting our opportunities to get off of these systems to get to the alternative energy, but we have to be willing to vote right on energy. And we can do it. We can get off these systems. We can reduce our usage. When I served as the committee administrator for the Legislative Commission on Energy, we were working on getting energy assistance, getting reduction of energy uses by weatherization, higher efficiency units, and looking at the alternative energies that we have in this state, and they are really paying great dividends. We need to invest in those systems. Thank you.
Ordinarily at League of Women Voters Candidates Nights, we don't have a whole lot of questions. Ordinarily,
there's nothing ordinary about the East Side.
Well, I'm new in town, so I'm learning that. Ordinarily, the League prepares a couple of questions to start things off. But you folks have so many questions on a variety of subjects that if it's all right with you, I'm going to extend this forum by a couple more questions than we ordinarily do, and I see people nodding, so thank you. This question, let's see, answer it in the order of Mr. Dimond, Mr. Humphrey, and Mr. Hawk. How would you create jobs for those of us on the East Side who are not union members? Yeah, yes, yes. Mr. Dimond, Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Hawk.
Well, I don't think we should be trying to divide out union members versus non-union members. Unions play a very important role in this state and this community. And what we ought to be doing is trying to find the ways to have the best economic development we possibly can for all people. And speaking of that, I think that we ought to, one of the things we ought to do on jobs is we ought to increase the minimum wage. It is crazy where the minimum wage is. If it had followed where just inflation, we would be over $10 an hour for the minimum wage. We ought to raise the minimum wage so those people who have jobs can make a living. Also, as I said with medical care, we need to make sure that we have medical care for everybody, health care for all. As far as jobs on the East Side, I think 3M is a good example of the old 3M site. We ought to be redeveloping that with programs that the community-based programs would developed with the community as to how to redevelop that site. I think some of the things that we ought to be looking at is high-tech jobs, particularly green industry, medical industry, because the more we have had great success at developing green industry jobs, medical industry jobs, and they generally are good paying. And with Metro U, if we get funding for the new science lab, then we could tie it together with the jobs that we're creating on the site. And one of the things that we have not always invested enough in the state is the programs to bring new technologies to the fore and to make sure that then they get into the production mode so we can benefit from jobs and the economic development of that. So that's one of the areas where I work.
First off, I'm not embarrassed to say that I will fight for more union jobs on the East Side. I fought to increase the minimum wage when I worked in the Minnesota legislature under Representative Tom Riccovina. I fought against the tip credit legislation for the weakest and for the poorest members of our working community, the waitresses and wait staff. They wanted to make it where they couldn't even get their minimum wage for serving tables. They wanted to take that out of the tips. Fought against that hard. And I'm proud to say that I worked on that legislation, and I'm proud to say that I'm in favor of union jobs on the East Side. But I'm also, proud to say here that, personally, I'm not a union member. I have a good job. I'm in management. I'm not embarrassed of it. But unions work hard to give people, working people, the wages the benefits that they need to get ahead. And I kind of found the question a little jaded, actually. And I think one of the things we need to work for is more vitality along our commercial corridors. We've got Payne, Arcade, Maryland. You drive down there, there's a lot of empty storefronts. 7th Street. Let's work and provide incentives to entrepreneurs to go in there, to open up businesses, to make jobs, to be the incubators, to sell things. I mean, I'm proud to drive down Payne Avenue right now and see all the Latina businesses in there. Those are awesome. And it's good to see the economic revitalization going on there. So, thank you.
Well, I have to say that after 3M closed on the east side here, east side we able to sustain ourselves for 30-some years through small businesses. So I will fight hard for small businesses to be able to create jobs for the east side. And to do that, I will have to fight hard to get local government aid or county government aid so that they can pass on that support to the district council or the neighborhood neighborhood development organization, and that at the same time they can provide trainings, offer trainings for entrepreneurs, so that they can be they can stay on long term and continue to be sustainable operation here on the east side. And if there's any economic dollars that are going to come to the east side, I want to make sure that it doesn't go to a big company only, but I want to make sure that there's mutual cooperation between the people, so that some money stay here on the east side. So they offer some training for local folks to be hired by the company. And if the company will not offer any training, perhaps we can make it as in form of grant or in form of scholarship through the Metro State or through Century College, St. Paul Tech, that prepare our young people for the 21st century, and also help our older workers to be adaptable, sharpen their skill to be adaptable to this 21st century, so no one will be left behind. Thank you.
Okay, this next question can you answer in the order of Mr. Hoff, Mr. Dimond, Mr. Humphrey. The question, again, on the state level, what legislation would you personally support or introduce to protect people from gun violence?
I wonder why I always get the hard question when I I'm saddened, by the situation happened in Colorado, and I too have suffered that. It's gun control is very, very important. Back in the home country, my classmate was blown to pieces by a grenade by a crazy man, and that still scar me till today. And we have to have better gun control, so that people who have sometimes have mental alteration, we can restrict them from having control of the weapon that can harm the public. And I have seen that evil before in my home country, and the same evil is happening here. Year after year, you see on the news, there's school shooting, there's activity, and I would say I would do the best I can. And I said Minnesota had been so well, have been a good example with Minnesota Nice, and our arts and environment will be a key for trying to help alter our young people from thinking differently. And they may not be a solution. There may not be a solution for that, but I think restricting gun control is one of them, and education and alternative education, whether it's arts or the environment. Thank you.
It's sad, and not just Colorado, which was obviously extremely tragic, but just again today, right here on the east side, a young child was injured. And just today, there was another incident. And it's really challenging as to how to address this issue, because we know the answer to address this. But as you've noticed also, when we had things that just seem like very common sense things, like limiting, very large clips, limiting, assault weapons and stuff, that those measures even got repealed. So somehow or another, we need to have a public dialogue about how we make our communities safe. We need to get buy-in from a broader community as to how we address this issue, because we cannot continue to allow the devastation to our community and the death of our youth. This is actually, while we've disagreed on some things, I must give John great credit on his speaking up on issues about the Castle Doctrine and some of the even crazier legislation that they had tried to push through that allows people to shoot on sight, literally. And it's I know you do it to laugh, but I mean it's a sad laughter that this could be happening in our country, and so we really need us to address this issue.
I was at a press conference in Railroad Island, and it was with the Bureau of ATF, St. Paul Police Chiefs, officers. I was amazed when they said that it's basically easier for these kids nowadays to get a gun than it is to go buy a candy bar, and that's sad. At this press conference, I mean, I saw the weapons that these people are buying. They're straw purchases, they're felons getting it. We need to tighten that loophole. It's illegal to do that already, it's a felony, but it all comes down to one thing: more cops, more cops, more cops. To do that, we need more LGA. We need more money to fund our cops. We need to put more money into the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, into our crime lab, so that when these guys get out and get caught with a gun, it doesn't take 4 months for the DNA to come back so they can go get another gun and come back out, kill someone before they can even go back to jail. We need to get the bad guys in jail, and that's going to take cops, it's going to take LGA to get the cops, it's going to take support for our law enforcement community. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association. I'm proud to be endorsed by the St. Paul Police Federation, and I'm proud to be endorsed by Senator Harrington. Thank you.
This will in fact be our last question. And before I ask it, I asked this before, whose phone is this? Does it look familiar? Missing your phone? Okay.
I said
it doesn't look familiar and you're not missing your phone. What will happen, this is the last question, and then each candidate will have a closing statement to make. And please answer this question in the order of Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Hawj, Mr. Dimond. In the state Senate, what legislation would you support or introduce to remove or improve at least the marginalization of immigrants and minorities? Mr. Humphrey, Mr. Hawj, Mr. Dimond.
I'm in favor of legislation that protects all people and treats everyone equal. I was proud to have stood on the Minnesota House floor in 1993 when they passed the Human Rights Act as a young staffer and supported that legislation. It's a great thing. I mean, that means that we can't discriminate on people based on their sexual orientation. We shouldn't discriminate against people based on their color, based on their ethnic origins. I think I'm proud of the fact that I can drop my kids off in a school where the classrooms are diverse. I'm proud of the fact that I live in a diverse community. I think I'm a part of that diversity. I think we all make it work by working together. So whatever we can do to protect our most vulnerable in society is a good thing. These new immigrants are doing great things in our community. Again, I was mentioning the good restaurants. Going to the Hmong Village and getting some spring rolls. I'm still trying to find the best spots, so maybe if anyone's got some advice for me, let me know, but they're all good. I enjoy that aspect of living on the east side, and whatever I can do to protect all people's rights, I will do that. Thank you. You.
let me reiterate that I will vote no on the voter ID. And let me remind everybody that we all were immigrant at some point. And the shade of color of immigrants is a little different these days. And I will fight hard for immigrants to be productive and to thrive in this community. And I will fight hard even for the Somali community, especially the Somali women in their burqa, to get discriminated at work, and that limit their productivity and contributing to this society. And so that's what I would do, is to fight for the rights so people can be productive and everybody contribute equally to the society. So we can have, we can cover our full clothes, have better jobs, and be a good contributing citizen to the society. Thank you very much.
I think if you take a look at our community, we all really have very common needs. We're looking for opportunity to get a decent job, a way to support our family, housing, a roof over our heads. We want education for our children and us as continuing learners. We want to have a sound community, sound environment, so clean water to drink. The ability for us to do that means that we have to all have an opportunity to participate in that process. And I think it's oftentimes good to look a little bit back to realize where we're coming, how we need to go forward. I happen to be of Irish descent. My mother is Patsy Grady, in case you figured it out. And it was not uncommon for businesses to put up signs, Irish need not apply. You couldn't even get a job. And there's still today comments made about, well, the reason why you can't get around St. Paul is because it's Dunker, an Irishman who designed it. You know, we all chuckle, but it's that kind of dividing the community up that is very devastating for everybody. And so I very proud when I was on the city council that I supported the Human Rights Amendment. A Human Rights Amendment that was certainly not popular at the time, and as a matter of fact, when it went to a poll, a referendum, went down in flames on the east side. I supported it, but I was told when we got to the vote, there were enough votes to pass it without me, so I could just take a pass on it. I would not do that. I don't think we could ever afford to take a pass on people's human rights.
Thank you all. Before we start the last questions, I just want to have a few words from our sponsor, which is the League of Women Voters of St. Paul. I want to thank the candidates for being here. I want to thank you, whose name I don't know, for answering the phone. I did not expect that phone to ring the way it did for the first half hour.
So I'm on the phone.
Well, thank you. We want to thank Roger Anderson for being the timekeeper, which is actually about the toughest job here, because when you're the timekeeper, your attention cannot wander for 1 second. You have to pay attention. He's paid more attention than any 10 of the rest of us. And so thank you very much, Roger. I also want to thank Ed Davis, because he and his camera are here from e-democracy.org. And the video of this tonight will be up on YouTube by sometime tonight, so you can go back and watch it over and over. And I invite all of you to talk to Sig Johnson if you would like to. She's president of the St. Paul League. If you would like to know what other ways you can support the work of the League of Women Voters in St. Paul and in Minnesota. Now,
Could I say something?
yes.
In October, we will have another candidate forum with the Republican candidate and the winner of this primary. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, but the Republicans do not have a primary. They only have one candidate. So in October, we'll have both parties represented.
And I want to say thank you to you. You've done a marvelous job.